Two, 1, 2. There we are. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi. Hi. Good. How are you? Okay. Good deal. Okay. Cool. The new one.
Well, good Monday afternoon and welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner. Christian Morgan is joining me in studio today, and our pal Tahisha Moise is working from home this afternoon. As always, the 4 to 5 is an interactive news show. It's built to connect you with your community and with us, and that's why we chat with you on our Facebook page and the live stream during the breaks. Use our hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected. Well, we are just 8 days away from Election Day. Hard to believe, and it is going to be a big week in North Carolina as both presidential campaigns are back in our state.
Starting with the vice presidential candidates, Democratic nominee Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, stopped in Winston-Salem and in Boone today.
So the glaze, old school, they actually have them in LA. So I've been a Krispy Kreme guy for a long time. So I'm a fan for sure.
All right, the stop in Winston-Salem and Boone will not be the last stop for him. He's also scheduled to headline every voter mobilization event through the early voting period, which lasts until October 31st. In the meantime, First Lady Melania Trump is getting back on the campaign trail for President Donald Trump. First Lady will be in Pennsylvania tomorrow and sharing the president's agenda. Now, she has not appeared at a campaign event since June 2019. That's where the president formally announced his run for a second term. Now, she was scheduled to accompany the president at a rally last Tuesday, but canceled because she had a lingering cough after her coronavirus diagnosis. President Trump's daughter, Tiffany, is also headlining two campaign events in North Carolina tomorrow. A Breakfast with Tiffany event in Charlotte at 9 in the morning, and then a MAGA meetup event at 10:45. She's meeting with young women leaders, discussing how the president's policies will help women achieve their goals. Ahead of her visit to the Queen City, Tiffany said in a statement, quote, President Trump is fighting to ensure America's future leaders can thrive in a democratic society that affords every single person the opportunity to succeed.
Vice President Mike Pence will be back in North Carolina tomorrow. He's campaigning at Piedmont Triad International Airport. The gates open at 10:30 in the morning, and he will speak at noon. The vice president was just in Kinston last night. We'll bring you coverage of his visit to the Triad on WFMY News 2. And remember, you only have a few more days to vote. Election Day, of course, is November 3rd, but that is the last day to vote. Early voting is still going on in North Carolina. And tomorrow is the last day to request your absentee ballot. The deadline is 5 p.m. Your County Board of Elections has to get your request before then. If you want to vote by mail, you need to register to vote before you request an absentee ballot. So far, more than 1.4 million people have requested those ballots in North Carolina, and 788,000 people have already cast their absentee ballot. Speaking of early voting, you have until Saturday. If you need to find a one-stop early voting location near you, we have a list just to make it easy. Text the word early to 336-379-5775 to get that list sent directly to your phone. Remember, this is a text line. You cannot call this number, and we'll link you to the one-stop early voting sites near you.
In our final days leading up to the election, campaign ads may get a little heated. Now, it's fair to wonder if some of these campaigns are required to tell the truth or if they have free reign. Our Verify team breaks down the guidelines behind these ads.
Call it mudslinging or a war of words. We get lots of questions about political ads. Harriet asked us whether truth in advertising laws apply to political advertisements. Let's verify with sources like the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, and UGA's Dr. William Lee. To start, the truth in advertising law under the FTC requires commercial ads be truthful and not misleading. The federal law is in place to protect consumers. But what about voters?
Truth in advertising laws do not apply to political advertisements. The Supreme Court has distinguished commercial speech, that is, speech about goods and services, from political speech.
Lee says that's because most of what you hear is opinion or hyperbole, so it comes down to freedom of speech.
Any effort to regulate political advertising would run up against a very strong First Amendment tradition where the Supreme Court simply believes that debate on public issues and public people should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open. And that translates into then a lot of mudslinging.
In addition, FCC laws prohibit TV stations from refusing or censoring political ads from any legally qualified candidate. Ads purchased by third parties, when not authorized by a candidate, do not get the same protection. So we can verify truth in advertising laws do not apply to political ads, which are pretty safely covered by the First Amendment, with a few exceptions.
A false factual statement could be subject to defamation. But again, the Supreme Court basically believes that the remedy for false statements in political speech is more speech.
Several school districts across our area were scheduled to return to classrooms today, but some delayed those plans.
Guilford County Schools leaders announced Friday that first and second graders were not returning today now because of coronavirus metrics that have raised in the Guilford County area. In the meantime, Asheboro City Schools did not send kindergarten through fifth grade students back today either. Those students are staying under Plan B until the foreseeable future, according to the district. Alamance Burlington Schools voted to continue remote learning for all students until January 15th, and Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools delayed their reentry plan as well. The start date has been pushed back at least 2 weeks. The Board of Education is meeting tomorrow reviewing the district's phased reopening plan.
Let's take a look now at your 4 to 5 roundup. Repair work on a water main break in Greensboro will continue until tonight. That break shut down part of Wendover Avenue near North Elm Street this morning, and the road will be closed until at least 10 o'clock. The eastbound lanes are shut down from North Church Street to Cridland Road, but the westbound lanes are all open. Judge Amy Coney Barrett is now one step closer to becoming a Supreme Court justice. A final vote for her confirmation is scheduled for this evening. The procedural vote was split 51 to 48. Vice President Mike Pence is expected to oversee the confirmation vote in the Senate. If Barrett is confirmed, she will join the Supreme Court in hearing arguments on the future of the Affordable Care Act on November 10th. Pope Francis just appointed the first African-American cardinal. Wilton Gregory is now the Archbishop of Washington. Archbishop Jose Gomez, the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, says Gregory's appointment represents the Pope's message of hope and inclusion in the church. Gregory has pushed for church leaders to improve church relations and emphasize the importance of Black Catholics seeing a bishop who represents them. He is also a strong supporter of the LGBTQ community that just gained support from Pope Francis last week after he said he supported same-sex civil unions. The ceremony to induct new cardinals is scheduled for November 28th in Rome. Halloween at the White House looked a little bit different on Sunday night. The president and the first lady typically hand out candy to the kids, but this year the treats were handed out separately to trick-or-treaters along the path on the south lawn. But the kids still had the chance to meet the first couple. They just waved from a distance.
And weather-wise across the Triad, well, we've seen a different afternoon than we had a morning. Look at this, beautiful sunshine all across the Triad. You can see that on our WeatherStim cameras, and temperatures actually have recovered quite well. We're in the mid-60s across the area, 64 in Greensboro, 69 in Winston-Salem, and 63 in Asheboro. But we'll continue to warm up over the next couple hours as our clouds do continue to slowly but surely clear out. That cold air damming situation, or that wedge setup that we've had in place yesterday and the first part of this morning, is starting to break down now. So overnight, mostly cloudy skies. We'll hang on to the mid-50s for those overnight lows. Your Tuesday, it ends up being a really nice day of weather. Some patchy fog in the morning hours, starting out in the 50s. So it will be cool, and with that patchy fog, plan just a couple extra minutes in your morning commute to account for that. But it's, a lot of sunshine in the afternoon. Not going to rule out the possibility of a stray shower somewhere across the area, although I do think most of us stay dry and much warmer tomorrow than we have been the last couple days. We'll be in the mid-70s for those afternoon highs on Tuesday, and that will kickstart a warming trend for the next couple days. But what we're keeping our eyes on is this, now Hurricane Zeta. Yes, it is our 27th named storm of the 2020 hurricane season. It's been a busy year, about 105 miles to the southeast of Cozumel, Mexico, so it is nearing the Yucatan Peninsula. Those folks will likely see hurricane conditions from Cozumel to Cancun tonight and through tomorrow. Then it takes its track through the Gulf of Mexico, making a landfall later this week. But what it could mean for our weather as we get towards the end of the week. We'll dive into those details coming up in your next forecast when your 4 to 5 returns.
There we go. There we go. I had to unmute the mic. Can you hear me now, Brad? Don't call me a loser. My mom was here. She heard you. She was not happy with you. Oh, I told her you weren't. She's coming to the station. She's on the way. Your boy Russ Stickulous. You are such a hater, bro.
We're not going to control the pandemic. We are going to control the fact that we get vaccines, therapeutics, and other mitigation
Why aren't we going to get
areas
control of the pandemic?
Well, that is a soundbite that's getting a lot of attention online. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows explaining why he says the pandemic cannot be controlled. In an interview with CNN, Meadows says the coronavirus is contagious just like the flu, and he argued the government's best bet is to focus on getting effective therapeutics and vaccines soon. But Meadows' statement is sparking a reaction in many of you. Our digital guru, Jalen Gilkey, has been going through your comments. Hey, Jalen.
Yeah, Maddie. Most of you all on Facebook are in agreement with Mark Meadows. Our first comment comes from Jerry. He says he has a point. It's past the point of being able to control it. Our next comment comes from Andrew. He says he's not wrong. All evidence points to us having very little ability to control this. Next, we have a comment from Dawn. She says sometimes the truth is far from what you want to hear. That doesn't make it any less the truth. And then our last comment comes from Jennifer. And Jennifer, she says, if they do a lockdown for a couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure cases will go down.
All right, Jalen, thank you. And thank you for commenting. You can always join our conversation by using our hashtag of 4 to 5. Coming up next, it is National Pumpkin Day. Appropriate, just in time for Halloween this weekend. So I asked you on my Facebook page, what's your favorite way to use a pumpkin? You can drop a comment in our live stream. We'll take a look at what you have to say next on the 4 to 5. Well, there is truly a national day for everything, and today is National Pumpkin Day. So I ask you, what's your favorite way to use a pumpkin? And you had a lot of fun ideas to share on my Facebook page. We'll start with Christina Cromwell, who said, my favorite way is for decoration on the front porch, but pumpkin chocolate chip cake from Maxie B's is another favorite dessert. David Terrell says, we use it in the dog biscuits we sell at a local farmer's market. Pumpkin is really good for dogs. Tasha Brown, our producer, said she likes pumpkin butter. I have to agree, Tasha. Diane says pie with 3 exclamation points. Adrian is another fan of the pumpkin chocolate chip cake from Maxie B. She says it's a great way to enjoy pumpkin year round. And Bobby Odom said, my favorite way to use a pumpkin is for decorations. I like to carve them and paint them up to resemble different people. Last year, I carved 4 of them and painted them to look like the 4 members of the rock band Kiss. And Bobby, you'll have to share a photo with us because that sounds great. Also share with us what you did this year. Such talent to carve a pumpkin. If I had to choose, I'm going to say my favorite way to use a pumpkin is in baked goods, followed by candles, like a scent.
Yes, I agree with you. I was going to say you got to use it in food. Another way is as a backdrop, right? For all those photos that you like to take during the fall time. That's mostly what I use mine for. I will say, though, today I actually incorporated some pumpkin into my coffee, and it wasn't pumpkin spice. I actually mixed in some of the puree and kind of made like a shake out of it, added some ice, the whole thing.
And it was good?
It was really good.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
That sounds good. I am very jealous of Bobby's artistic skills, carving the band Kiss into his pumpkin. And it also reminds me that we're less than a week away from Halloween yet, and I have still yet to carve a pumpkin. So I got to do that this week. But that pumpkin chocolate chip cake sounds good. And now I'm getting hungry.
This is what we do here on the 4 to 5. We make you hungry. It's right before dinner time. Yes, Halloween is Saturday. I have to say, I respect everyone who carves pumpkins, but for me, it's just too messy. The guts are everywhere, and then you have to pick the seeds out of the guts. I mean, what else do you call that? Pumpkin meat?
But have you ever picked the seeds out and then roasted them in the oven? That's really good.
It's a lot of work.
Oh.
I will say, guys, I've never carved a pumpkin. No one has ever invited me to carve pumpkins. So I don't know what that says about me or who I hang out with.
I feel like we should be coming to your rescue, Tahisha.
Right.
And we will leave it at that. Hey, the 4 to 5 is going to break, but you can join our conversation about pumpkins or anything. Just find us on Facebook, the WFMY News 2 page, and use our hashtag 4 to 5. Gospel, jazz, and blues singer Melva Houston died in May. Houston, who lived in Mount Airy, was famous for her voice, but people in the community knew her for her friendship and community work. Now the city is transforming a space to honor her life and legacy. I spoke to one of the organizers today.
So Lizzie Morrison, the Main Street coordinator of Mount Airy Downtown Incorporated, joining me. Lizzie, we know some great people are from Mount Airy, and Melva Houston lived there for a long time. So talk about how Mount Airy is honoring her legacy.
Yes, well, we are really excited to be partnering with a group of Melva Houston's family and friends to create Melva's Alley. This will be located down on Market Street in our newly formed Market Street Arts and Entertainment District. It started with an idea from one of her family members to come up with a Melva Day to honor her with jazz and blues music, and has just snowballed into this permanent space featuring a large mural by the Greensboro artist Jex.
And you're raising money, so where are you so far and how can people help out?
Our goal is $30,000. We are more than halfway there with around $16,000. If you'd like to donate in person, every Friday night during the Market Street Arts and Entertainment District, we've got music, which the musicians are providing to us for free in order for us to help raise money for this project. Every weekend from now through November 29th, come on out to Mount Airy and support this project.
Why was it important for you to honor Melva Houston's legacy?
Sure. Well, Melva was an amazing musician who gave back so much to our community. Not a lot of people know that she started this huge Thanksgiving meal program to feed people who couldn't afford Thanksgiving meals. She volunteered at a lot of the local organizations and charities. And she also just shared her music with the community, oftentimes for free, doing concerts at Thirsty Souls. You know, a lot of people do think of Mount Airy as Mayberry, and we really do have that Mayberry feel, but we also want to show the world who Mount Airy is beyond the Andy Griffith Show, and this is a great opportunity to do that.
You can also donate on GoFundMe or by sending a check to Downtown Mount Airy Incorporated. By the way, the Market Street Arts and Entertainment event is from 4 until 11 every weekend through November. So the artist Tahisha actually started work on the mural today, and Lizzie, who I spoke to for the piece, sent me a picture, and they just have the white background painted for now, but if the weather holds out, they expect him to finish in 5 days.
Yeah, and you showed the picture of what it will look like completed, and I can't wait for that to happen. And I love to just hear about good news coming out of different communities, you know, in the Triad, especially for someone who's contributed to the Mount Airy community year after year around the holidays. It's great to see that people are able to memorialize her in this way.
Absolutely, and the rendering of the mural, like you said, is gorgeous. It's very realistic, a photorealism vibe that you don't see in a lot of street art, so a very talented artist making that happen.
Yeah, and there was one of the photos, it almost looked like she had a tear coming out of her eye. It kind of shows, you know, her heart in her music as well.
Absolutely, so we'll keep you updated on the progress of Melva's Alley.
And weather-wise across the Triad, guess what we're seeing this afternoon? It's been a while. We're seeing bright sunshine now all across the Triad. You can see that evident on our weather stem cameras. And we've kind of been stuck in the 50s for a good portion of the day, especially as we held on to those clouds. Once they started to break away, though, and we got the sunshine, we've warmed up quite quickly, sitting in the mid-60s and upper 60s, even close to 70 in some locations. And you can see those clouds slowly but surely clearing out on that satellite image as we go throughout the afternoon. That will continue as we go into the overnight hours. We'll keep a few clouds around, so overnight temperatures will drop back down into the mid-50s for overnight lows, but your Tuesday ends up being a really nice day of weather. Some patchy fog in the morning, but much warmer tomorrow afternoon in the mid-70s once we get a little more of that sunshine. Of course, all eyes right now are on Hurricane Zeta, about 105 miles from Cozumel, Mexico, likely to be a hurricane, Category 1, as it makes landfall on the Louisiana coast by Wednesday evening. Then it tracks off to the northeast and gets closer to us in North Carolina. So what we're concerned about is some rain. Really, Thursday is shaping up to be a wet and windy day. As it looks right now, generally 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible across the Triad. Of course, a lot depends on the track and the exact timing of that storm, which we'll nail down as we get a little bit closer. But after that, we start drying out and we cool down in a big way. for Halloween and for the weekend. It's going to feel like Halloween on Saturday, struggling to get out of the 50s with those overnight lows dropping down Saturday night into the upper 30s. By the way, that's when we fall back and change those clocks back. We'll hold on to that cooler weather to end the weekend and start next week.
Coming up at 4:30, we're taking a look at how the voter turnout is smashing records here in North Carolina and across the nation. More to come when we come back.
Because there is no reason for that, because it's all on. Ice cold milk? Okay. What? What?
Good afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner, joined by Tahisha Moise and Christian Morgan this afternoon, and we are enjoying chatting with you and interacting with you on our live streams on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure you join us and continue to talk with us by using our hashtag 4 to 5. Well, let's get right to it and catch you up with your 4 to 5 roundup. Italy is imposing new lockdowns and restrictions to fight coronavirus infections. The military just opened up one of the biggest testing facilities in the country today, and they're conducting drive-in testing on the outskirts of Rome. That site can handle 400 cars at a time and complete 30,000 tests a day. Lockdown shut down gyms, pools, movie theaters, and added an early curfew for cafes and restaurants until November 24th. Italy reported more than 21,000 new cases yesterday, with a total of more than 37,000 virus-related deaths. Hundreds of people gathered on the National Mall yesterday for what they called a worship protest. It was organized by an evangelical singer. The group is against restrictions placed on churches during the pandemic. There was prayer, singing, and baptisms. It's part of the Let Us Worship tour across the country that's happened for the last several months. China is imposing new sanctions on U.S. military contractors for supplying weapons to Taiwan. China says Taiwan has threatened to invade their country. The U.S. government promised to phase out weapon sales to Taiwan back in the 1980s, but says Beijing and Taiwan must settle their differences. The U.S. has no dispute with Taiwan and remains the island's main ally. Weapon sales to the island have increased over time. Last week, Beijing demanded the U.S. cancel a planned sale of weapons to Taiwan, but the United States did not back out of the sale. Chinese officials say they are not giving details on what penalties could look like or when they'll take effect. And Tweetsie Railroad is inviting you to celebrate the holiday season with them. Golden Rail season pass holders get one free admission and train ride during Tweetsie Christmas. Guests can take a 20-minute train ride on the historic steam locomotive on a 3-mile route lined with nearly 1 million Christmas lights. Tweetsie Christmas opens on November 13th. It runs through December 31st, but the park is closed on Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. Tickets are on sale now. You can get yours at tweetsie.com.
More early votes have already been cast in this year's election than the number of people who voted early or absentee in 2016. Now, that push is due in part to early voting that's been done in some of our larger states here in the U.S. So far, more than 58.6 million votes. 58.6 million votes have been cast so far. Now compare that to just more than 58 million votes cast through mail or early voting in 2016. And remember, we still have through the end of the week. Democrats registered voters have cast 51% of all ballots reported as of Sunday, and Republicans have cast 31%. Now, here in North Carolina, more than 3.1 million voters have already cast theirs. Over 2.3 million of those voters have been done at those one-stop early voting sites, and more than 788,000 voted by mail. Now, keep this in mind. There are more than 7.3 million registered voters in our state.
Well, North Carolina is one of several battleground states for the election, and the race is tight between the two presidential candidates. Democratic nominee Joe Biden is currently leading President Donald Trump in a North Carolina CBS poll. Biden has 51% of voters compared to the president's 47%. But because North Carolina is a battleground state, that means both campaigns are giving us a lot of attention, making frequent stops here, and this will continue throughout the week.
Yes, and during the presidential debate, if you remember, North Carolina was mentioned several times throughout those nights. Political experts say it's because there aren't as many undecided voters this close to the election as there were in the last election. In 2016, polls showed a larger number of people had already made up their minds in the final week of voting, but that's not common. But it is what happened here in North Carolina in 2016. With just 8 days until Election Day, candidates are running out of time to change the mind of any undecided voters that are here in North Carolina. Now, voter turnout is breaking records already. And again, as we said, we are just 8 days away from Election Day. But could this year's election produce the highest voter turnout in our nation's history? Let's connect the dots for you.
Could this presidential election produce the highest voter turnout our country has ever seen? USA Today spoke with Michael McDonald, a professor at the University of Florida who runs the U.S. Elections Project. Let's connect the dots. According to the professor's work, there are more than 257 million people in the U.S. who are 18 or older, and nearly 240 million citizens are eligible to vote this year. He predicts we could see 85 million early votes, with 150 million Americans voting in total. That would give us a voter turnout rate of more than 62%. How does that compare to presidential elections in the past? We have to go back more than 100 years for the highest eligible voter turnout. It was in 1876, when Republican Rutherford Hayes defeated Democrat Samuel Tilden. Of course, voting laws were much different back then. Black men were just granted the right to vote with the 15th Amendment in 1869, and women still couldn't. That right wouldn't come until the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920. For a more modern perspective, let's look at the last 50 years. The highest voter turnout was in 2008, when Barack Obama defeated John McCain. 61.65% of eligible voters turned out to vote. So, if voters turn out on this election day as expected, it's predicted we could see the highest turnout since 1908. So what are you waiting for? Let's make history. Get out and vote.
And if you decide to vote in person this election season, the CDC has some safety guidelines they say will protect you. On top of wearing a mask, waiting 6 feet apart, and washing your hands, they say consider taking your own supplies to the polls, like a pen, tissues, and hand sanitizer. But in North Carolina, they will give you a pen to vote, and they might give you one wrapped in plastic or one that's already been sanitized. So just keep that in mind. You can also try to limit your time at the poll by checking sample ballots online before you go, so you can fill yours out as quickly as possible and you don't have to wait around in the polling place.
And if you have to wait in those lines outside to vote today, you got a much nicer afternoon than you did morning. We've got sunshine across the area now, and that has warmed our temperatures into the mid 60s, even close to 70 in some locations across the area. Tonight we'll hang on to some of those clouds, but it won't be all that cool. We'll be in the mid 50s for overnight lows, and that gives way to a really nice day for Tuesday. There could be some areas of patchy fog starting out tomorrow morning, so just plan a couple extra minutes in your morning commute. But partly cloudy skies in the afternoon. We'll get into the mid 70s, and it's not totally out of the question. There could be a stray shower somewhere across the area, but I do tend to think that most of us end up staying dry for your Tuesday. Got another cold front swinging through. That'll get close to us tomorrow, but we kind of get stuck in between two systems. Then we have a warm front later in the week. That will be attached to what's left of Hurricane Zeta, and that will come our way. That pushes in moisture and pushes in rain by the time we get towards the end of the week. And this is Hurricane Zeta right now, about 105 miles to the southeast of Cozumel, Mexico, getting closer to the Yucatan Peninsula. They likely see hurricane conditions tonight and through tomorrow. But after that, it continues to stay a Category 1 storm and then makes landfall on Wednesday, most likely somewhere along the Louisiana coastline. Then it takes a track to the northeast, getting closer to us in the Carolinas. It will likely bring us some rain and some gusty conditions for Thursday. And it really could end up being a pretty wet day of weather, generally between 1 inch to 2 inches, less to the southeast and more back to the northwest. We'll continue to watch it and work on those timing and amount details. But after that, we start drying out and we cool down in a big way for Halloween and for the weekend. Also, don't forget to change your cloth specs Saturday night. Stays cool heading into the end of the week and into next weekend.
The spooky music is playing. Do you see the ghostly outline? Tell me, does it haunt you? What once lived here? Okay, let's look at it big on the screen, Maddie. Does this give you chills?
It looks like you spilled something here.
Okay, so I did. It's Monday, and I'm being a little dramatic, and that's okay. But I think this might surprise you and might surprise the folks at home. This right here is where one of my carved pumpkins used to sit.
No, I just told the people I think carving pumpkins is messy, so I'm guessing it spilled its guts here.
It spilled all the things, okay? It was leaking. It was a clear leak until then I tried to clean it up, and I used vinegar water.
Okay.
Because it was natural, right?
Sure.
And then this happened.
Vinegar can eat away at certain synthetic rubbers, and it can corrode different grades of stainless steel, especially if there's already scratches or chips on it.
Yep, my fireplace stone now has a stain that will not come off and does not look as good next to the other pumpkin, does it?
That is spooky. I understand now, all because you were just trying to clean it up.
I was trying to clean it up. I had no idea that it would do this. Vinegar, it's one of those natural things that everybody uses to clean things. Coming up at 6 o'clock, I'm telling you the other parts of your house where you should not be using vinegar to clean because it might end up like this or worse. Okay. Also, coming up tonight at 5:30, Halloween just a few days away, of course, and with COVID numbers rising, safety needs to be on the top of all of our minds. So coming up, how can you stay vigilant about preventing the spread of COVID-19, especially with trick-or-treaters? And we're giving you the chance to get your coronavirus questions answered with a Cone Health expert. You can send in those questions by text. That's 336-379-5775. We start the questions and the answers coming up at 5:30.
It's the Carolina Panthers' 26th birthday today, so let's take a look at some big moments in history for the Panthers. Their first draft pick ever was on April 4th, 1995. The Panthers had the 5th pick overall, quarterback Kerry Collins from Penn State. And then they had 4 seasons with the team, or he had 4 seasons with the team, and started 42 out of 45 games. He threw 8,300 yards, had 47 touchdowns, and led the team to the 1996 NFC Championship. Now, Panthers' first touchdown was not with Kerry Collins, but with Frank Reich. Fullback Bob Christian caught a 16-yard touchdown pass from Reich in the 1995 Hall of Fame game against Jacksonville. Carolina won 20-15, becoming the first NFL team to win their inaugural game. The first regular season win the Panthers ever saw was against the New York Jets on October 15th, 1995. Panthers were down 6-12 in the second quarter, but Carolina ended up winning 26-15. It would be the first of 4 straight wins that year. Well, are you looking for something spooky to do this Halloween, but you don't know where you can go to get a real scare? CBS News is sharing a list of the most haunted hotels, houses, cemeteries, and other locations. And one of them is right here in North Carolina. Can you guess what it is? I'll give you some time. All right, let's roll the video. The Biltmore Estate in Asheville. George Vanderbilt actually died in his home in the early 1900s, and some visitors say you can still see his ghost around the property. Witnesses also claim you can hear his late wife, Edith, calling his name. Vanderbilt purchased the land, which would become the Biltmore Estate property in 1888, and construction on the estate began a year later. It took 6 years to construct the 250-room French Renaissance chateau. Biltmore officially opened it to friends and family on Christmas Eve in 1895. Now, I need to talk with the author of this article here in CBS News, because the one place I wasn't thinking they were going to choose in North Carolina was the Biltmore,
Really?
Especially around this time when they have the Christmas trees up.
Now, have you been in the basement, though, which is the Halloween room that Vanderbilt's daughter actually painted, and very creepy murals all over the wall for a New Year's Eve party? So I can see how that area would be haunted. You know, a lot of people say several spots in the Triad are haunted, too. I've been on a Greensboro ghost tour and learned about the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Greensboro, not affiliated with the Biltmore House.
You know, you think about the Biltmore Hotel in Asheville, and even though it's so pretty in Christmas time, like you just mentioned, there's always something to me suspicious about a massive palace where some guy used to live years and years and years ago, and it's so elaborate. Like, you know, there's just something about it that begs haunted.
I don't know.
It's one of those things, if walls could talk, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I personally don't believe in ghosts. I've said that here before. You two, what are the thoughts here?
I mean, I've had some pretty strange experiences, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence.
I don't know. I like the feeling of going somewhere that is said to be haunted. It gives you a different feeling, but as far as actually like believing in it or ever seeing anything,
Right. Well, ghost stories and people who tell ghost stories are historians. And so we all love history. We all enjoy learning more about a particular location. And if sometimes that history is a little bit creepy, it's a little bit more fun to hear around this time of year.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I will say, if you want some creepy history, if you're ever in the New Orleans area, you do one of those walking tours, ooh, a little chilling.
All right, Christian, what about a spooky forecast?
Yeah, how about it? It's actually going to feel like Halloween, although it doesn't right now. We're in the 60s across the board. We finally got sunshine back in the Triad. That will stick around for a couple days, but it is going to feel spooky heading into the weekend. But we got to get to some rain first. We'll dive into all those details and your full forecast. It's coming up on your 4 to 5.
Hello. Do you believe in ghosts? I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Da 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 da. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
You can't hear me. Okay. Does it sound better now? Yeah, no? Keep talking. Okay, I can keep talking. As long as you stop yelling at me, we'll be fine. Keep going. Still can't hear me. What's going on?
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. Washington football team head coach Ron Rivera finished his final cancer treatment today. He was diagnosed with lymph node cancer in August, but continued his role as head coach while he went through treatments. Washington tweeted out a video of Rivera celebrating with healthcare workers. He rang a bell to celebrate his final treatment. We are so glad to hear that Coach Rivera is doing well. Jalen Gilkey, everyone loves this video and is wishing Ron Rivera well. What's going on?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful video. Just many want to give many many blessings to Coach Ron upon his battle. People on social media going crazy. Lots of support. Our first comment comes from Twitter from B. McLaughlin. He says, I lost my father to cancer in July. As an Eagles fan, I can't help but tear up at this. This is so much bigger than football. Godspeed and good luck to Coach Rivera. Our next comment comes from Bryce. Bryce says, man, I cannot wait for my turn. And we sending more blessings and more prayers to you, Bryce, as you continue your journey as well. Next, we have a comment from Woody. Woody says, not gonna lie, got a little misty-eyed watching this. Reminded me of watching my then 2-year-old daughter ring her bell. Like love or hate the team, everyone can get behind someone beating cancer. Congratulations, Coach Ron. And our last comment comes from Andrew. He says, been a fan of his since he played linebacker with the Bears back in the day. Good to see him finishing up his treatment, hoping for a good recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those comments said it all, Christian. But I mean, this knows no rivalries. It knows no football rules. And of course, with Coach Rivera spending so much time in the Carolinas as the head coach of the Panthers, we are so happy to hear that he's made it to that final treatment.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, it doesn't matter where he goes. He'll always be a North Carolinian. He'll always be a Panther to people here across the state. Doesn't matter where he goes. And like you said, this is much bigger than football. You never, ever have a rivalry or play games with anybody's else. So this is really great to see.
It is a widely shared video on Twitter now for good reason. So many cancer patients just keep their eyes on the prize of ringing that bell. It's pretty common in cancer treatment facilities to do that. So we wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, I'm sure do. I can't imagine doing that. So that's awesome to hear. And let's take a look at the weather across the Triad. Things are improving. Very nice. We are in the 60s. Took us a while to get here, but once the clouds broke and we got some sunshine, we're sitting in the mid 60s, even 70 in some locations across the board. Temperatures tonight dropping back into the mid 50s under partly cloudy skies. And then your Tuesday ends up being a really nice, a warm day of weather. Most of us stay dry, but not going to rule out the chance of a stray shower somewhere across the board. And it's been a busy hurricane season. You know that. I know that. We've had 27 named storms. 10 of those have made landfall on the United States, and likely to be 11 by the time we get to Zeta later in the week. And as Zeta gets closer to us, right now it's still a hurricane just about 100 miles to the southeast of Cozumel, Mexico. It likely stays a Category 1 hurricane, making landfall on the Louisiana coast sometime on Wednesday. And then it will take that track, like we've seen so many other storms do this year, off to the northeast, likely to bring us some rain later in the week. And a pretty good soaking of rain too. Right now, Thursday is going to be our day to watch with some gusty winds and also a pretty good soaking of rain. Around 1 to 2 inches looks likely right now, although the exact amounts and the exact timing of that rain is still kind of yet to be determined. We'll know a little bit more as we get closer to that. But the rain sticks around. It's a few showers on Friday. We start drying out and we get chilly. It feels like Halloween for the weekend.
Coming up on WFMY News 2 at 5 o'clock, some Triad school districts did not start in-person learning today as originally planned. We're taking a closer look at what's to come for those districts that have delayed their reentry plans. That is next at 5.